My friend's son astonished me in the garden. You won't believe what he accomplished. On a Sunday afternoon, the warmth and brightness enveloped the scene, creating a serene atmosphere where the gentle buzz of bees could be heard as they meandered through the lavender that adorned the back fence. Once more, I found myself in the garden, my cherished refuge, immersed in the earth and tranquility. Since my divorce 2 years ago, gardening has transformed into my form of therapy. Silence surrounds me, free from opinions, as I connect with the earth and find solace in the steady beat of rhythm. There, I discovered tranquility. On that particular day, I donned one of my vintage sundresses, a faded yellow cotton piece with delicate, thin straps. It may have been a touch too revealing in the front for tending to flower beds, yet the heat was undeniable. And to be honest, I hadn't anticipated any visitors. With my hair loosely twisted, bare feet resting on the grass, and a trowel in hand, I was coaxing a stubborn root from the earth when the sound of the gate creaking reached my ears. I pivoted and regarded the figure entering the room with a blink. It required a moment for me to identify him. Ryan, the son of my friend Denise. He had transformed from the slender teenager I recalled from a few years ago. He had developed broad shoulders, a deeper voice, and an easy, confident stride. He was now 22, perhaps even 23, still youthful enough to remind me of my age, yet mature enough to recognize how my gaze lingers a moment too long. He offered me a grin. "Hello, Lore. My mother asked me to assist you with the garden wall." I narrowed my gaze at him, protecting my eyes with my soiled hand. "Did she?" "Indeed," he remarked, gesturing toward the side of the house. "You mentioned that you were intending to remove those old bricks and arrange something new. I thought you could use some assistance." I paused momentarily. I hadn't explicitly requested assistance from Denise. However, I did bring it up during our brunch conversation last week, albeit somewhat casually. I was not anticipating that she would send her son over as if it were a favor. Nevertheless, I found myself in solitude. I required assistance. Ryan certainly had an appealing presence. "Very well," I replied, smoothing my dress. "But do not claim I did not caution you. That wall has stood since long before your arrival. It exhibits a strong resistance." With a crooked smile, he replied, "So am I." And in an instant, he removed his hoodie and began his task. We dedicated the following hour beneath the sun, collaborating closely together. I excavated as he drew. He inquired as I organized. It was entirely so, organic. From time to time, I would notice him stealing glances in my direction, not out of disrespect, but rather out of curiosity. Watching, as if he were attempting to understand me. "You always tackle this by yourself?" he inquired after a moment, using the back of his arm to wipe the sweat from his forehead. "It gives me a sense of purpose," I remarked, resting on my spade. "Additionally, I appreciate the tranquility, uninterrupted contemplation." He regarded me with a contemplative expression. "I understand your perspective, but it appears to be quite solitary." A moment of silence ensued. The atmosphere that lingers between two individuals when an unspoken tension exists, poised for recognition. I remained silent, simply bending down to collect a handful of bricks. However, I found myself perceiving him in a manner I had not anticipated. The intimacy, the warmth. His movements exuded confidence yet remained free of arrogance. He exhibited kindness, observant. Despite the age difference, I felt acknowledged and significant. I experienced, observed. As we reached the midpoint of dismantling the wall, we decided to pause for a break. I served us lemonade and we settled on the edge of the deck, our legs hanging down into the grass below. His knee lightly brushed against mine, initially unintentional, but then it lingered, warm and steady. "Your garden is beautiful," he remarked, his gaze sweeping over the meticulously tended beds that I had invested so much passion into, resembling a secret sanctuary known only to a select few. "At times, that is precisely how I wish it to be," I remarked softly. He gazed at me, truly gazed at me. "What is the reason for that?" Once more, I found myself in a moment of hesitation, torn between the urge to deflect and the weight of honesty. After experiencing heartbreak and disappointment, the desire to be seen diminishes. Walls are constructed by you. You cultivate roses and encase your pain in vines. He nodded slowly, deep in thought. "There's no need for you to conceal yourself here, you realize." There was an undeniable quality in his voice that drew my gaze back to his eyes. He was not engaging in a game. He was not engaging in playful banter. His earnestness took me by surprise more than anything else. "Ryan," I remarked with a hint of laughter, "you're quite young. Are you perhaps 22 years old?" He mentioned that he turned 23 last month. "I am 47 years old," I proceeded, placing my glass on the surface, "of an age that could easily align with that of a mother." He offered a subtle smirk, one that was soft and unassuming. "You are not my mother, and age does not diminish your right to be understood." That sentence settled heavily in my chest. In that instant, words eluded me. A significant portion of my life has revolved around responsibilities. My son, my career, the demands of fulfilling the role of a good wife, and subsequently, a good ex-wife. I had concealed my needs beneath a layer of practicality. And now, here stood this young man, addressing a version of myself that I had not allowed to surface in years. "Of course, I would appreciate the opportunity to return tomorrow, if that is agreeable to you." I gazed at him, a peculiar sensation swirling in my stomach. I would be open to that. As he exited through the garden gate, I found myself observing the manner in which he walked, casual, unhurried. Yet it seemed as though something had changed within him as well. I returned to my flower beds, yet I refrained from altering anything. I remained motionless, gazing at the wall, my fingers still alive with the sensation of his touch. A subtle and unforeseen occurrence had taken root in the heart of my garden. I understood on a profound level that nothing would ever truly return to its former state. The following morning, I arose earlier than my usual time. A subtle ache lingered in my body from yesterday's labor, a sensation that felt well-deserved. Yet an unfamiliar energy resonated beneath the surface, a sensation I had not experienced in years: expectation. As I positioned myself before the bathroom mirror, I meticulously brushed through my hair, taking note of its remarkable length. A few strands of gray emerged at the temples, subtle yet sincere. I contemplated providing coverage for them, then did not. I was simply being myself. If Ryan were to return, he would encounter the authentic version of myself, not merely the version who nurtured roses and donned vintage sundresses, but the woman who had experienced life, endured pain, reconstructed herself, and still possessed the capacity for wonder. By 10, the sun had begun its ascent, and I found myself once again in the garden. I wore a soft cotton dress, this time in navy adorned with delicate white flowers. It embraced my waist perfectly, with a neckline that dipped just enough to prompt me to make a subtle adjustment. Not due to modesty, but rather nerves. I had my doubts about whether he would actually arrive. However, I soon recognized the unmistakable creak of the gate once more. He entered, clad in a white t-shirt and dark jeans, a small toolbox in one hand and a brown paper bag in the other. "Good morning," he remarked, his familiar smile effortlessly in place. "Lunch has been provided." We decided to proceed without interruption. "Behold your readiness," I remarked, a smile breaking through my restraint. He replied, placing the bag down, "I learned from my mom. I enjoy providing nourishment for those I wish to share my time with." The words flowed effortlessly, yet they hung in the atmosphere that separated us. He refrained from pressing. He approached the spot where we had paused, and I followed suit, resuming from our last point of discussion. The task continued, fingers occasionally grazing, sharing looks that conveyed more than words could express. The atmosphere remained subdued and respectful, yet the tension was unmistakably present. At approximately noon, we paused once more, this time seeking refuge beneath the maple tree located in the back corner of the yard. The paper bag contained an assortment of sandwiches, fresh fruit, 2 sodas, and a delightful chocolate bar. "You recalled my preference for dark chocolate?" I inquired, taken aback. He handed it to me and said, "You mentioned it once," and I listened attentively. Once more, that response took me by surprise. Not solely for its charm, though it certainly possessed that quality, but because it was genuine. His attentiveness stood out, and in a reality where I had become accustomed to being ignored, it held more significance than I was willing to acknowledge. We settled on the grass, enjoying our meal in a serene silence for a time. Then he posed a question that compelled me to set my sandwich aside. "May I inquire about something somewhat personal?" I acknowledged with a slow nod. "Absolutely." "What led to the decision for you and your ex to part ways?" I gazed at him, torn between the urge to maintain a superficial connection and the allure of revealing a part of myself I had long kept hidden. However, his tone was not intrusive, it was authentic. I finally stated that we had ceased to see one another, not in a physical sense, but rather on an emotional level. As time passed, we became accustomed to the routine and our respective roles, until one day I came to the unsettling realization that I could no longer recall the last moment I truly felt desired. "Essential. In search of," Ryan acknowledged with a nod. "That resonates with me, even though I have not experienced marriage." I cast him a curious glance. "You have previously experienced a situation of that nature." He mentioned that he had a girlfriend for a couple of years. It concluded last winter. She was exceptional. However, I consistently sensed the need to demonstrate my value for her attention. It felt as though I was under scrutiny. "That is quite exhausting," I remarked. He offered a gentle smile. "Indeed, it is. However, being here with you does not evoke that sensation." I felt a slight catch in my breath. "Ryan." He reclined on his elbows, observing the clouds for a brief moment before proceeding. "I want to assure you, Laura, that I am not attempting to pressure you. This situation is indeed complex. However, I want to express that being in your presence feels unique." Positive distinction. I remained silent for an extended period. I was unsure how to navigate such a level of honesty, not from an individual of his age, not from anyone in the past few years, to be honest. From the instant he stepped through that gate yesterday, a part of me sensed that a transformation was taking place within me. After concluding our lunch, we found ourselves in a more subdued state and returned to our tasks. By late afternoon, the wall had been nearly entirely dismantled, and we commenced outlining the design for the new structure. He settled beside me, jotting down notes on a notepad, and I found myself stealing a glance at the way his arm lightly touched mine. This time, I remained in place. "I could come again this weekend," he offered casually, "if you want help." I expressed my desire for that, and I was sincere in my sentiment. The sky transitioned to a gentle hue with the onset of evening light, and as we collected our tools and prepared to leave, he halted near the back steps. "Hey," he said, his eyes locking with mine. There's no need to respond immediately, however. "Would you be interested in joining me for dinner sometime? Only the two of us, absent of gardening gloves." My heart raced, a mix of exhilaration and fear coursing through me. "That could certainly elicit some raised eyebrows," I remarked, half chuckling. "Allow them to rise," he responded. I have no interest in narratives from others regarding our relationship, exclusively ours. Once more, he perceived the world with that serene and lucid perspective. "Observe me." I moved in closer, my fingers gently grazing his forearm. "I will take some time to consider it." "I will wait," he stated. He refrained from leaning in. He refrained from taking any action. He offered a respectful and steady smile before walking back through the gate. Upon entering, I refrained from activating the television or checking my phone. I found myself in the kitchen, gazing at the diminishing light across the garden, my heart brimming with emotions I had long suppressed. Surprise, intrigue, nervousness, and a sense of vitality enveloped me. That evening, as I lay in bed, his words echoed in my mind. "I have no interest in others' narratives regarding our relationship, exclusively ours." For the first time in quite some time, I found myself contemplating the possibility that perhaps, just perhaps, a new story was still waiting to be penned. The subsequent days possessed a peculiar sort of electricity, subtle yet undeniable, the sensation that precedes a summer storm. Everything felt electrified. Throughout the week, I occupied myself with various tasks, tending to the roses, rearranging kitchen drawers that were already in order, and even refreshing the paint in the guest bathroom to make the most of my time. Regardless of my efforts, my thoughts continually returned to Ryan. It was not merely his presence, nor his eyes, nor the effortless manner in which he navigated the garden. It was the manner in which he listened. The way he gazed at me suggested that I held significance. His fearless embrace of silence, coupled with his willingness to speak truthfully when silence fell short, was remarkable. By Saturday morning, I had come to the realization that our conversation may have been more a product of my own thoughts than a reflection of his true intentions. Perhaps I was interpreting it more deeply than intended. Perhaps he was simply exhibiting kindness and thoughtfulness, qualities that are increasingly uncommon in today's world. Perhaps I was simply experiencing loneliness. As I tended to the flower beds, the sound of the gate swinging open once more caught my attention. This time, I refrained from glancing up. I simply smiled to myself and remarked, "You're late." "I brought coffee," he said from behind me. "I ask for your forgiveness." I turned around, and there he stood, the t-shirt pressed firmly against his chest, sunglasses perched atop his hair. He held 2 paper cups in his hands. He appeared as though he was meant to be there, as if he had always been a part of that place. I gently accepted the coffee from his hand. "Do you consistently offer bribes?" He smiled broadly. "Exclusively for women who evoke a sense of intimidation in me." That brought a smile to my face. "You appear to possess a remarkable resilience to intimidation." You might find it quite surprising. We spent the majority of the morning in silence, which in a way facilitated our efforts. Soft music flowed from the Bluetooth speaker I had placed on the deck, a soothing blend of blues that set a relaxed atmosphere. The wall was once again taking form, not identical to its previous state, but improved, more powerful. At approximately midday, we took a moment to hydrate. He positioned himself beside me at the spigot, dabbing the sweat from his brow, then faced me, his voice subdued this time. "Have you considered what to have for dinner?" I regarded him, taken aback by the tranquility in his voice, neither insistent nor demanding, merely inquiring. I swallowed, not out of uncertainty, but because my decision had already been made. I simply hadn't expressed it verbally until now. "I have," I stated. I nodded slowly. "Indeed, but not in a public setting." His eyes narrowed slightly, conveying a sense of inquiry. "I wish to prepare a meal," I continued, "right here in my own space. Only the two of us." A subtle warmth emerged in his expression. "That sounds ideal." That evening, I lit candles, not necessarily to create a romantic atmosphere, though perhaps that was a subtle intention, but rather because they infused the dining room with a comforting warmth. I prepared a dish that is both uncomplicated and refined. Lemon garlic chicken, roasted potatoes, asparagus, and a bottle of wine I had been reserving for a special occasion that always felt just out of reach. Up to this point. Upon Ryan's arrival, he appeared transformed, not solely due to his dress shirt and slacks, but also in the way he carried himself, more purposeful, less informal. As soon as I opened the door, his gaze met mine. "You look incredible," he remarked. "I scarcely recognized you without any dirt on your hands." "Don't become too accustomed to it," I remarked with a sly grin. "Thank you very much." The dinner proceeded smoothly. The sound of laughter mingles with the gentle clinking of glasses as conversations flow effortlessly between profound and light-hearted topics, creating an atmosphere that feels entirely natural. He shared his experiences regarding college, expressing his frustrations about the uncertainty of what lay ahead. I shared with him the tranquility that followed my divorce, explaining how my garden provided solace in ways that therapy never could. As we transitioned to the living room, the bottle of wine had already been depleted by half, and the atmosphere had shifted. Lightweight, yet unmistakably increased. Conscious, he positioned himself near me, our thighs making contact. After a lengthy silence, he inquired, "Are you afraid?" I directed my gaze towards him. "What is it about?" "Regarding this matter, about myself." I inhaled deeply, "Not from you." "Regarding its potential significance, regarding the opinions of others, of allowing myself to experience this." His hand grazed mine, fingers arching delicately until they secured a tender grip. "You are not obligated to provide anyone with an explanation." "I understand," I murmured. "However, I must be truthful with myself." Then he urged, "Be honest." I gazed at him, truly gazed at him. His face, remarkably open, appears much younger, while simultaneously exuding a depth of emotional maturity often found in men twice his age. For an extended period, I had suppressed my own needs and desires, making it feel unfamiliar to articulate them aloud. "My feelings for you, Ryan, run deeper than I care to acknowledge." His fingers gripped mine with a subtle intensity, then simply accept it. Once more, silence enveloped the space, yet this time it carried a sense of certainty. The potential was abundant. He leaned in gradually, allowing me the opportunity to halt his approach. I did not. Our lips connected softly, and for that brief moment, it was solely about the tenderness and the undeniable sense of perfection it brought. There was a distinct lack of urgency. Maintain composure. A serene yearning has finally been afforded the opportunity to flourish. As we said our goodbyes, I hesitated to open my eyes immediately. I simply remained in that position, my forehead gently pressed against his. "I am not seeking anything casual," I stated softly. He replied, "Neither am I." We remained seated for an extended period, engaging in conversation, embracing with a kiss, engaging in conversation once more. There is no urgency, no boundaries have been overstepped. A woman and a man hailing from distinct walks of life, discovering the unforeseen in one another's presence. As he departed that evening, he leaned in to kiss me once more at the threshold. "Wishing you a restful night, Laura. Wishing you a restful night, Ryan." As I shut the door behind him, I leaned against it and smiled, experiencing a sense of relief for the first time in what felt like an eternity, free from guilt. This experience was undeniably authentic. The journey was merely commencing. The subsequent week was imbued with an unusual sense of tranquil happiness, a serene resonance that nestled within my heart and lingered, even on days when Ryan was absent from my sight. I experienced it during the mornings as I gathered my hair, in the afternoons while tending to the garden, and in the evenings when I discovered a straightforward message from him. "I am considering you. I wish I were there." Or at times, simply, "Hello." There was no requirement for it to be poetic. The essence of its simplicity is what rendered it profoundly authentic. I have not disclosed this information to anyone as of now. It is not Denise. This is not my son. Not even my dearest friend Beth. Certain matters require a period of reflection before they can be articulated. I did not perceive it as secrecy. It served as a safeguard. What we possessed was delicate, akin to a fresh blossom. Exquisite, yet not quite ready to face the wind at this moment. Ryan visited once more that Friday afternoon. There are no tools available this time. Absence of garden gloves. Only him. "What about me?" "I thought we could go for a walk," he said, extending his hand with a subtle smile. I returned the smile. "It has been quite some time since I last took a leisurely walk for the sake of walking." "That is precisely the reason you ought to," he stated. We ventured only a short distance, meandering down the serene neighborhood street, alongside flourishing creeping myrtles and charming picket fences, our arms occasionally grazing against one another. At one moment, he grasped my hand completely, and we strolled together in that manner, without a doubt. "There is no shame, only connection," he suddenly remarked. "I've never encountered anyone quite like you. Your presence inspires me to contemplate aspects I was previously unaware I required. You bring a sense of calm to the pace of life." I gazed at him, feeling the warmth of his hand in mine. "And you remind me that I am still permitted to feel, that it is not too late." The words escaped my lips before I had the chance to reconsider, yet I chose not to retract them. I had no desire to do so. Ryan revealed to me a belief I had long set aside, the potential for joy, for emotional closeness, for allowing myself to be genuinely visible without the dread of being cast aside. On that particular evening, we refrained from making any arrangements. He remained there without moving. We settled onto the back deck, wrapped in a blanket, gazing up at the stars above. I prepared tea. He grasped my hand once more, placing it against his chest as if he required its steadiness. His touch was gentle, unhurried, and unassuming, simply there in the moment. In that moment, his proximity to me seemed to hold greater significance than anything else, and that truly changed everything. I confessed as we gazed at the sky, uncertain of what this was meant to resemble. He cast a brief look in my direction. I can relate as I understand the emotions involved. I smiled, and what is the sensation it brings? He rested his head gently against mine, a feeling of home, even if it remains incomprehensible to others. Once more, that subtle assurance he possessed was evident. Simply honesty, without any theatrics or manipulation. In due course, he kissed me once more, this time with a slower, deeper intensity, yet maintaining a sense of tenderness and respect. As we nestled together on the couch, the lights softly dimmed and the gentle sound of crickets drifted in through the window. I leaned my head on his shoulder and inquired, "Do you believe this could truly work? Are we together?" His fingers intertwined softly with mine. When an experience resonates with such authenticity, it becomes impossible to simply turn away from it. You ensure its success. For the first time, I found myself believing it. It wasn't merely a flight of fancy. Rather, Ryan revealed to me an unexpected truth: that a bond founded on trust, openness, and kindness can emerge in the most unexpected places, even in a garden on an ordinary Sunday, when one is not actively seeking anything. No commitments were made. That night, we didn't attempt to define everything, yet we understood what we possessed, and that sufficed. A few weeks later, Denise finally detected a change in my voice when I brought up Ryan assisting me once more. She remarked, her anger palpable, yet her suspicion absent, that he appears to be around quite frequently these days. "He's approachable," I responded succinctly and chose to leave it at that, as certain aspects of my life no longer required explanation or justification. They simply required to be experienced. As summer progressed, so too did the depth of our experiences. I started to observe an increase in my smiles, a subtle lift in my posture, and a renewed anticipation for the mornings ahead. One evening, as we stood in the garden beside the wall we had reconstructed together, Ryan turned to me and remarked, "You know, this wall may be the most significant thing I've ever contributed to building." I glanced at him, a smile gracing my lips. "It extends beyond the wall." He acknowledged with a nod. "I am aware." As I stood there, bathed in the golden light of dusk, it became clear to me that I was no longer the woman I had been just weeks prior. I allowed an influence to enter my life, one that was positive and genuine, and it transformed me. If you are tuned in, regardless of your identity or location, take note of this message. I never imagined that this could occur in my life. Avoid making the same errors I did. Do not hesitate to allow yourself to be visible. Do not conceal yourself behind the passage of time or the apprehension of others' opinions. At times, when you least anticipate it, love emerges in places you believed could never flourish again, surprising you in the most exquisite manner.